WHGE 95.3 FM. Coming up, the Open Eye.
Those of us that indulge or commit intellectual violence don't do so for pleasure of mental masturbation or ego diddling. We do so because the chains of oppression in our people's minds are deep and difficult to remove.
Good morning, my children of the sun. Welcome to the Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm your host, Third Eye Optometrist, Patrice Gibbs, here to get your eye open. Hey, Sister Sherry, I see you there. All right, let's do this right now. Okay, let's see. All right.
Somebody told a lie one day. They couched it in language. They made everything black, ugly, and evil. Look in your dictionary and see the synonyms of the word black. It's always something degrading and low and sinister. Look at the word white. It's always something pure. Somebody told a lie one day. They couched it in language. They made everything black, ugly, and evil. Look in your dictionary and see the synonyms of the word black. It's always something degrading and low and sinister. Look at the word white. It's always something pure. But I want to get the language right tonight. I want to get the language so right that everybody here will cry out, yes, I'm black, I'm proud of it, I'm black and beautiful.
All right. Every generation has its purpose. Ours is to reveal the truth and reverse the brainwashing. Do you remember before the internet when people thought the cause of stupidity was lack of access to information? That wasn't it. Look, anytime that you may be feeling maybe you're not too bright, maybe you ain't, up on it and this, that, and the other, don't feel bad. There are people that actually believe that penguins left Antarctica, traveled to the Middle East, and got on Noah's Ark. And that's something I want to talk about right now. Mm-hmm. Noah's Ark is a flood of logical problems. The story of Noah's Ark, a staple of religious narratives, recounts a global flood sent by God to cleanse a wicked humanity. Only Noah, his family, and a select group of animals were spared, surviving 40 days of rain within a massive ark, while a critical examination reveals numerous logical and scientific inconsistencies that challenge its literal interpretation. The absence of global flood evidence, a worldwide deluge of the magnitude described, would leave an undeniable and pervasive geological signature. Scientists would expect to find massive uniform layers of sediment and fossil evidence across continents indicating a singular catastrophic watery event. Furthermore, such an event would create a severe genetic bottleneck in all surviving species, leaving a distinct imprint on their DNA. Hey, Steve. Yet geological research has yielded no evidence of such a global flood occurring within human history. Moreover, advanced civilizations like those in ancient Egypt, China, and Sumer, which were thriving during the purported time frame of the flood, show no record of awareness of their world being underwater. The animals, the impossibility of animal capacity. Estimates for the number of animal species alive today exceed 8 million. That's 8 million, not 8 million animals, that's 8 million species. And this figure doesn't include extinct species. Look, even if Noah were only tasked with gathering land animals, the sheer number, hundreds of thousands of species, translating to millions of individual creatures, presents an insurmountable logistical challenge for a single wooden vessel. The notion of cramming such a multitude of diverse life forms onto an ark, even one of immense proportions, strains credibility. Modern aircraft carriers and sprawling zoos designed with advanced engineering and animal care in mind cannot house such an immense variety and quantity of animals. Now, sustaining life and food and care. The narrative suggests a voyage lasting over a year. Storing adequate food for millions of animals, each with specific dietary needs, presents an enormous hurdle. How would Noah have provided fresh meat for carnivores like lions, eagles, and snakes without spoilage, especially in the absence of refrigeration? Similarly, maintaining a supply of fresh, non-spoiling plant matter for herbivores would have been an immense challenge. And then there's the fate of aquatic life. A global flood would drastically alter the salinity and composition of all bodies of water, mixing fresh and saltwater environments. This drastic change would render most aquatic habitats unlivable for their specialized inhabitants. And there's the problem of inbreeding. The story asserts that the entire human race descend from Noah's 3 sons and their wives. This implies a foundation of severe inbreeding, which in reality leads to a high prevalence of genetic defects and diseases due to a limited gene pool. Similarly, restarting every animal species with just 2 individuals would create an extreme genetic bottleneck, making them highly susceptible to extinction due to inbreeding and lack of genetic diversity. And then there's the moral dilemma of divine judgment. Hey, Rhonda, I see you. The moral dilemma of divine judgment. If the flood was intended as divine punishment for human wickedness, the indiscriminate drowning of innocent children and countless animals raises profound moral questions. The concept of a loving and just God orchestrating such a widespread act of destruction, which includes the suffering and death of non-culpable beings, presents a theological paradox. Critics argue that a truly omnipotent, benevolent deity will possess alternate means of addressing human sin. If God is all-powerful, okay, the necessity of a complex, destructive flood raises further questions. An omnipotent being could presumably eradicate evil instantly and without collateral damage. Furthermore, the narrative itself implies the flood's ultimate ineffectiveness, as humanity is depicted as returning to sinful ways relatively quickly after the event, rendering the catastrophic intervention pointless. When examined through the lens of critical thinking, the story of Noah's Ark encounters significant challenges on scientific, logistical, and moral grounds. The absence of corroborating geological evidence, the physical impossibilities of animals' housing and care, the ecological inconsistencies, and the profound moral dilemmas presented by divine judgment all contribute to a narrative that appears to align more closely with ancient myth than historical fact. The persistent literal belief in a story that collapses under basic reasoning invites deeper reflection on the nature of faith, evidence, and interpretation. Get real. WHGE 95.3 FM, the open eye.
There's always something degrading and sinister. Look at the world.
Sorry about that, y'all. Matter of fact, let me get my disclaimer out the way while I'm here.
The views and opinions expressed on Open Eye are those of the hosts, guests, and contributors and do not reflect the policy or position of WHGE 95.3 FM nor our sponsor, the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Any content provided by Open Eye's hosts, guests, or contributors are theirs and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, company, or individual.
All right. WHGE 95.3 FM, the open eye. All right. What's going on? What's going on? Right here in Delaware. In another example of police incompetence, Delaware cops pulled over a car and ordered all the black occupants out at gunpoint. That's last Saturday night, including 2 women and 4 children, accusing them of driving in a stolen car. But the Dover police officers never bothered to check the registration, which had confirmed the woman driving the car was the actual owner. Instead, they transported the 2 women to the precinct along with the 4 children, locking each woman in a separate cell along with the 14-year-old boy, who was also locked in a separate cell. The 3 younger children, 8-year-old twin girls and a 3-year-old, were placed inside a children's room. Then 5 minutes later, the cops realized their mistake and released the 5 individuals, with one cop telling the woman the false arrest was not based on racial profiling, but officer safety. Yeah. But Hope York, the 33-year-old mother of the 4 children who posted videos of the unlawful detainment to TikTok, where they have gone viral, is not buying that excuse. Dover below the canal, yeah. The officer said, I want you to know that this had nothing to do with race. It's just that we are dying in the streets and I have a family to go to. York explained in an exclusive interview with Atlanta Black Star on Tuesday. But York has no doubt it was based on race, because earlier in the evening at the traffic stop, another cop tried to justify the unlawful detainment of her family by using the same argument after she questioned why they felt the need to handcuff her son, 14-year-old boy. I was telling them, my son is 14, an honor student, and just graduated. Who gives a F about him? And one cop said to me, have you not watched the news lately? There you go. White officers are dying. These black kids, 10 and 12, are carrying guns and they're killing us. Punk ass. For the record, 40 cops have died in the line of duty in 2025, including 20 who were shot and killed, according to the Officer Down Memorial page. Meanwhile, 540 citizens have been killed by cops in 2025, with black people getting killed at a rate of 2.8 times compared to white people. And that's according to Mapping Police Violence. I told him my kids are traumatized and we didn't deserve that. The cop responded by threatening to issue her a ticket for a seatbelt violation, and she did not leave the precinct immediately. Son of a bitch. York and her friend and the 4 children had just driven to a Chinese restaurant to pick up dinner when they were pulled over by a multitude of police cars. The cops ordered her friend to step out of the vehicle and walk backwards toward them. There are like 15 cop cars. 15 cop cars. And they had the vehicle surrounded. I noticed the street was blocked off. I told my son, who was in the back seat, to start recording. The cops then ordered York out of the car, ordering her to walk backward to them, and they placed handcuffs on her. Then they did the same to her son. And then she said the cops pulled guns on the 3 remaining children in the car, ordering them to pull guns on the children. Video recorded from inside the car shows the kids were crying, not realizing what was happening. And you wonder why black kids grow up to either fear or hate cops. I still have no idea what is going on because they never told us anything. I did not understand why they had their guns or were handcuffing us. She said the cops refused to inform her while they were being detained, but threatened to have a child protective services take her children at the precinct. The cops eventually told them the car had been reported stolen, which came as a shock to the 2 women. And I said, there is no way this car is stolen because I remember the day she bought it, York said. I got pictures of her on my phone buying the car. After about an hour in handcuffs, they learned that the traffic stop was a result of her friend's mother calling the police a few weeks earlier on her 15-year-old son who took her keys after an argument in New York City. The mother reported the set of keys stolen, but one of the keys was for her daughter's car, which somehow got translated to a report of a stolen car. York is now hoping to find an attorney to sue their ass, the Dover Police Department, for their incompetence, racism, and unlawful detainment. Right here in Delaware. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. All right. Patrice Gibbs here, your third eye optometrist. All right. This is what goes on. And that's why I'm not going to let you forget what they've done. Sonia Macy. You haven't forgotten her, have you? It's from a op-ed from Michael Archino. Last summer on July 6th, we learned of a new reason for the police to kill an unarmed black person. A pot of hot water. Hey, Irene, I see you, sister. Sonia Macy, then 36, called 911 when she suspected an intruder at her home in Springfield, Illinois. According to Illinois State Police summary of her shooting death, when police arrived, deputies did indeed see a car at Macy's home that looked broken into. After knocking on the door, the 2 officers claimed they found her distraught and not thinking clearly. But instead of treating her as a person in need of help, she was ultimately treated as a criminal. And after an exchange, subsequently executed. Sangamon County Deputy Police Sean Grayson reportedly roughly 10 feet from Macy motioned to a pot on the stove in her kitchen. At one point, Grayson responded to Macy, "Get away from your hot steaming water." In response, the summary says she repeated twice, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." Twice she said that. Grayson greeted that with, "I swear to God, I will shoot you right in your effing face." And so he did. But not before she dropped the pot and crouched below a line of cabinets with her hands in the air after apologizing as he drew his gun and pointed it at her. Though she did not get back up and grab the pot again in defense. Oh, she did get back up in defense and grab the pot again in defense. When she threw the water, Grayson's response was to fire his gun 3 times. She didn't throw the water. Y'all got that mixed up. Y'all got that mixed up. With this Sean Grayson fired 3 times, one of the bullets directly into her face as he promised. If this does not sound barbaric enough after the shooting, when the second deputy in the home claimed he planned to retrieve a medical kit, Grayson told him not to. The other deputy did anyway and remained with Macy until medical help arrived. Grayson never bothered to help the distressed woman. He was sent there to help, but ended up shooting her in the face. He has since been indicted on charges of first-degree murder, and more recently a new pre-trial date has been set. He will stand trial in October. Macy's family attended the brief pre-trial hearing before 7th Circuit Court presiding Judge Ryan Cadigan last month. Sante Macy, a cousin of Sonia Macy, told reporters, "We're going to be at all the hearings. They could have 100 hearings between now and October 20, and we'll be at each and every one." In February, the family reached a $10 million settlement with officials in Sangamon County, Illinois. As much as they seek justice for her killer, however, a separate interview highlights that beyond her victimhood, Sonia Macy was a mother and a loving person who left behind a hole in the hearts of family, friends, and the people in her community. Oh, hell no, we ain't gonna forget. All right? It makes me think of the brother that ran over the cop after his son was murdered. Okay. All right. And people said, well, he ran over any old cop. And the response to those of us that look at cops in askance, oh, you can't say all of them. You can't say, they are not all like that. I don't give a damn. You fit the description. And that's what it comes. You fit the description. Now, I'm about to share something with you that has a very disgusting pattern from Brother House of Zay. Very disgusting pattern. And in this climate, you have to wonder what's going on here. Yona Lubrin, Orlando, Florida, was a young lady found nearly naked and hanging from a tree. It was ruled a suicide. Denores Richardson, Culver County, Alabama, found hanging from a tree. Ruled a suicide. This is recent. This is this year. Lennon Lacey, Blandonboro, North Carolina, found hanging from a tree. Root of suicide. Robert Fuller and Malcolm Harsh, both found dead in the state of California, hanging from trees. Root of suicide. And now most recently, in the past week or so, Earl Smith in Albany, New York, found hanging from a tree and root of suicide. Those 6 names that I just listed make up only a very small fraction of the number of black people, men, women, and children that have gone missing. Out of all the methods of suicide, with the most common being a self-inflicting gunshot wound, they're telling us that it's only ever black people that decide to take their own lives using a rope outside. I would never believe that the victims' families will never believe. Black community will never believe that these are suicides. And the police continue to play in our face for years to come, as the most ignorant people will continue to call us victims. Say, we're playing victim. I hope that this message gets out to the right people to recognize that this is real. Modern day lynchings are very real, and they have no problem continuing to rule it a suicide. When these literal people, these human beings, are being found hanging 10 feet off the open ground with zero news coverage. Let me be clear before I make the following statement. I do not wish this on anybody. That being said, let it be one white man or white woman found hanging from a tree. The amount of attention and news coverage would surpass Gabby Petito. For this upcoming 4th of July weekend, or this 4th of July weekend that we're in the middle of, and going forward, especially in this climate, be safe. Keep in contact with your family members, your friends, your circles. Keep them updated with what you do, because you never know what you might end up in. Frankly, again, you don't know what these people are capable of. Be safe. And be sure to share this disgusting pattern. WHGE 95.3 FM. Open eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs, your third eye optometrist, and moving right along here on the open eye. You know, during segregation, our people got together and made things happen. Tell you about something they made happen. A black-owned bus company in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, before integration. 13 black men put together their life savings and purchasing shares of stock, excuse me, for $100,000, forming Safe Bus Company Incorporated. And that's on May 26, 1926. Safe Bus Company became the largest African-American owned bus company in the nation. The company grew large and fast and was at one point named the largest black-owned transportation company in the world. In 1955, Safe Bus grossed $825,000. It's in 55. At its prime, the company carried 15,000 fares a day, grossed $18,000 a week, and had some 75 employees. Fares started at 5 cents in the early operating days, and grew as the company expanded. The number of buses expanded as well from 35 to 42. Safe Bus operated in 20% of the city. Black bus drivers made around $1.60 to $2.50 an hour. It's 55 now. And that was more than school teachers was making then. By 1968, Safe Bus provided transportation to all city residents, black or white. And the company took on more routes, but finding drivers proved difficult. Despite more routes or whatever, after integration, Safe Bus started to lose money. Old attitudes about segregation made it difficult to make a profit, and the company lost 60% of its riders. According to the Winston-Salem Transit Authority. When whites started riding Safe Bus, they thought they had to go to the back of the bus. And we didn't play that. After integration, black people started riding on white-owned buses so they could sit up front with white people. Stockholders voted to sell the company to the city in 1972. Then when the Winston-Salem Transportation Authority became responsible for all public transportation. Yeah. All right. See, that's why when we look at those of us nowadays that have the finances to invest in our community, it pisses us off. Look at this. Jeff Bezos and that ugly hussy he married, both of them ugly inside and out, he spent $50 million on her wedding, on their wedding. And he bought her another $50 million worth of jewelry. I really didn't give a damn about them. I bring that up to bring up the fact that so many black celebrities attended that wedding. Like Oprah. Of course, and anybody conscious in the black community has no love for Oprah. And what pisses us off is they had the resources to change the narrative at huge levels, from building schools to buying tech companies. They can do all these things and put us in these playing fields at a high level. And you look at some of these clowns running around like, what's his name, Shannon Sharp, pissing away 6 figures on some 19-year-old. Are you kidding me? You running around here pissing on girls because you wouldn't get therapy? And I seen people celebrating Sean Combs, infamously known as P. Diddy, being found innocent on 2 of the charges. Really don't give a damn. This is a talented guy. He's a talented producer. Could have invested that money into our community. Instead, he having freak offs, 96 hours long. Damn, with all these resources. And you get someone like Kanye, who wasn't satisfied with the love of black people. It wasn't enough for him. See, that's why I big ups any celebrity that does something like Mike Epps. Big ups Mike Epps for investing in your community, for making sure people in your community had homes. People like Oprah and the rest of those that are so determined to be white adjacent and assimilate and turn their back on their own community, y'all can go to hell. WHGE 95.3 FM, overnight. Brother Jakeem. Yes, I see you, brother. All right. All right. I'm not going to do this. All right. WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm Patrice Gibbs, your host of the Open Eye. All right. They draped the flag. They draped the cross in the American flag and called it faith. Preached Jesus, but bowed to power. Turned the gospel into a weapon and called it patriotism. This isn't Christianity, it's idolatry. If your church serves a political party more than the poor, it's not a church, it's a cult. Which most of them are. Some from Justice Sotomayor descending on a Supreme Court ruling. No right is safe in the new legal regime the court creates. Today, the threat is to birthright citizenship. Tomorrow, a different administration may try to seize firearms from law-abiding citizens or prevent people of certain faiths from gathering to worship. The majority holds that absent cumbersome class action litigation, courts cannot completely enjoin even such plainly unlawful policies unless doing so is necessary to afford the formal parties complete relief. That holding renders constitutional guarantees meaningful in name only for any individuals who are not parties to a lawsuit. Because I will not be complicit in so grave an attack on our system of law, I dissent. Big ups, Justice Sotomayor. Yeah. Yes, the Declaration of Independence does state that the people have the right to alter or abolish a government that becomes destructive of their rights. Specifically, it says that when a government becomes tyrannical and abuses its power, the people have the right and the duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. This is not a call for constant revolution, but a recognition of the ultimate power of the people to protect their fundamental rights when all other avenues have failed. We need to remember this and stand up for ourselves as a country. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. Third Eye Optometrist here, Patrice Gibbs. Well, as You probably know by now. You saw the Nazis in Congress celebrating the big beautiful bill passed the House and the Senate, which means it will be signed into law by the wannabe tangerine tyrant. And they tell you 10 attacks on working and poor families. It will lower family incomes. The bottom 20% may see a 3.8 drop in income, while top 20% gain 3.7%, an unprecedented wealth shift. Never forget what the conservatives are about. They're not Republicans, Nazis. They are about class warfare. This big beautiful bill will make working poor worse off. Households earning under $17,000 could lose over $1,000, a 10.8% drop in income. There will be rising unemployment. Cuts to Medicaid and SNAP, okay, could culminate in 1.2 million jobs, especially in poorer states, being lost. Food insecurity will increase. SNAP benefit cuts, $100 a month for 600,000 households, exacerbate hunger for struggling families. Yeah. More bureaucratic hurdles, rigid eligibility checks, annual documentation and red tape will delay or deny benefits. Soaring energy bills. By phasing out clean energy initiatives, families face higher electricity costs. And black communities face environmental warfare as their communities suffer more pollution, life-threatening pollution, creating more cancer outlets. And of course, inequality will widen because the tax breaks favor wealthy. The poorest get less than 1% of net benefits, while the richest 1% grabs 70%. Well, that's up here. Alright. And as this goes on, they're building more concentration camps. See, that's what this is really about. You got to pay attention here. What is that? Alligator Alcatraz in Florida? Yeah. Because what happens is, as people have less resources, they do whatever they have to do to survive, meaning they turn to crime. And as they turn to crime and get locked up, they're put in these concentration camps. And remember what the 13th Amendment says. Slavery is illegal except if you are convicted of a crime. Put in these concentration camps and sent to a plantation. Next thing you know, your black ass will be down here picking cotton. That's not all. And we as black people should look at this alligator Alcatraz closely. Because remember, when they hunted alligators during slavery and Jim Crow, they used our babies as bait. Now this Laura Loomer, right-wing, Nazi-ass hussy, then jumped up and said alligator. She put out a post and said alligator lives matter. The good news is alligators are guaranteed at least 65 million meals if we get it started now. She's calling for the genocide of the Latino population in the U.S., which is 65 million. She mean all of y'all. She mean all of y'all. Yeah. Now, isn't it something like this, you know, make America great again? When the hell was it great? See, these people had this Leave It to Beaver fantasy. They idolize the 1950s. But they don't like the free college, massively unionized labor force, Philly, and 90% tax rate that produced that era. And selective nostalgia or something. That's why it's infuriating to witness history repeating itself. Think back to the 1980s, when Reagan convinced America that welfare was fundamentally broken, infested with waste, fraud, and abuse. This is with the DOGE, what is it, the Department of Government Efficiency? I got government efficiency with a bunch of morons. Reagan painted a vivid yet entirely fabricated picture of welfare queens, which was nothing but a racist caricature of poor black women, supposedly living lavishly off of taxpayers' dollars. And it wasn't just a little made-up story. It was a deliberate racist tactic, and tragically, people bought it. Middle-class Americans, many of them struggling themselves, were fed the line that they were the good, hard-working ones. So when Reagan made roast in hell, made the devil sodomizing with a pitchfork, gutted food stamps, public housing, and Medicaid, these morons cheered. They generally believed these cuts were fixing the problem. But here's what was really happening while everyone was distracted, blaming the poor. The Republican demon, Ronald Reagan, made roast in hell, made the devil sodomizing with a pitchfork. He quietly slashed the top tax rate from 70% to a mere 28%. Handed massive breaks to corporations and systematically dismantled unions. Excuse me. The result? The middle class got utterly screwed. And America has flatlined ever since and still hasn't recovered. Credit card debt exploded. Student loan debt exploded. Families that once thrived on a single income could now barely survive on two. Pensions vanished as corporations just stole your money. And as I said, college tuition became a monstrous burden. Healthcare costs became a lifelong struggle. And who benefited? The ultra wealthy, who hoarded more wealth than ever before. And that's all they do is hoard the wealth. This was a calculated move, used racism and stereotypes to divide us. All to quietly funnel wealth to the top. Don't blame the rich. Blame the poor. And here they are doing it again. And it's working again. You don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. Repeat the failures. They're telling you Medicaid cuts are just about fraud, and that only the lazy will be affected. Wait a minute. Medicaid cuts are just about fraud. So an 80-year-old with Alzheimer's, hip replacements and what have you are just lazy. And y'all fed into that. Y'all some sorry ass people. God. Still haven't recovered from the last time they pulled this crap. And I honestly dread to think what will happen this time around. WHGE 95.3 FM. The Open Eye. Patrice Gibbs here, your third eye optometrist. Waking you up. This is from Robert L. Arnold. I woke up today with the weight of a dream. The grand American dream. The one etched on the parchment with trembling hands, promising liberty, breathing in the lungs of its people. A nation for all its flaws, that at least try to speak the language of freedom out loud. Now I feel I'm watching that dream gasp its last breath on the floor of the Capitol as well-meaning 1,000 suit-clad figures step over the body and declare the win. This bill, this big, beautiful bill, it isn't beautiful. It's a goddamn obituary. It's the final signal that we become a nation governed not by the will of the people, but by the whims of oligarchs and the favors of ideologues who no longer even pretend to believe in democracy. They've sold your children's future and pawned your dignity to buy another yacht for a man who already owns 5 and will never sell any of them. They slash food aid while lifting salt deductions by tens of thousands of dollars, a handout for the coastal rich, a middle finger to every family clipping coupons just to survive. The child tax credit is gutted, affordable health care dismantled, student loan relief vanished. Labor protections are stripped like copper wire in a hurricane. They ask, how do you kill a republic? You take bread from a hungry child so a hedge fund can eat gold. How dare they whisper democracy when they send their people to suffer while billionaires are handed the keys to the kingdom, tax-free. Peter Thiel, Curtis Yarvin, Stephen Miller, these aren't the shadows behind the throne, they are the goddamn throne now. They don't believe in the consent of the governed. They believe in rule by tech oligarchs, corporate kings, and clever little fascists with soft hands and God complexes. They don't think democracy is inefficient, they think it's a mistake. And they'll tell you to your face if you let them. They may spin it as order or efficiency or long-term vision, but strip away the branding and its authoritarian rule wrapped in libertarian perfume. We are governed not by leaders, but by cowards. And I don't mean the tired, unused word for politicians who fail to act. I mean small, scared little boys in tailored suits who were never hugged and now take out their rage with strong microphones. They are thugs with soft spines and misplaced daddy issues. They don't think, they don't receive. Each morning they are spoon-fed their outrage and regurgitated to a coward that no longer asks why. Only who do we blame? And they tell black teachers, journalists, poor people, immigrants, the sick, and the truth. Meanwhile, this bill gives legal cover to the outsourcing of justice itself. Hidden in the shadows are the mechanisms that send American citizens to jails beyond reach of constitutional oversight. Offshore prisons for when your dissent is too loud, your protest too visible. They'll tell you it's only for violent crimes. But once you crest that hill, the descent into tyranny is steep and fast. Be careful what you say. Suddenly becomes survival advice. Watch how it starts sounding like prophecy. No citizen of the United States shall ever fear speaking out against their government. Yet, here we are. The price of betrayal. Do you feel free today? Do you feel secure in your blessings of liberty? Do you feel like every American, black, white, immigrant, old, struggling, feels the pursuit of happiness is a real and reachable thing? And are you happy because the government has raised the national debt by about $5 trillion? And it's not to fix roads, heal the sick, feed the hungry, or educate the poor. It's to make the rich richer. Money they won't spend in 100 lifetimes. Money that will never flow back down, no matter how many times they lie and call it trickle down. If you ask why, they won't give you a reason. They'll just give you a target. So here we are. This isn't fiscal policy. This is economic violence. It is looting disguised as law. A $5 trillion debt increase to enrich the elite while pulling back the last scraps of dignity from working families isn't policy. It's proof that they believe you are too stupid to notice, too tired to fight, and too afraid to scream. It's an absurdity so grotesque and so naked in its cruelty that it should offend every nerve ending you have. It's a slap across the face of reason. Here we are, the richest country in human history. And they are telling us we cannot afford food for our children while padding yachts and private jets with your future. We're told there is no money for universal health care, but there are always money to bomb another village. No funds for school, but blank checks for war machines and billionaire bailouts. They passed a bill that helps no one you know. Feeds no one you love, lists no one but the already floating. As the great Southern poet Weezy Bornat said it best, eat shit and die. Because that's all they're offering you now. Cold and on a plate with a smile, and you're supposed to say thank you. I don't know what country we are anymore, but I do know what we were capable of. And I weep for it today if it's still there. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs, your third eye optometrist. All right. Coming around to the close here. Still got something for you though. Don't go nowhere yet. Most people in the United States do not understand that plantations were concentration camps where terror, rape, assault, and brutal family separation took place. They do not learn about the generations of families ripped apart at the snap of a finger, or the immense wealth that was created and passed on to this day by people who benefited from the free labor of enslaved humans. And that for more than 100 years after the Civil War, African Americans continue to be terrorized by the state apparatus. That's true white history. And let me tell you how deep this was. How determined they were to take your humanity. Even the smallest thing. I remember when I was a kid, my mom, my grandma, they would buy buttered pecan ice cream. I couldn't stand buttered pecan. Still don't like it. Why? I'm going to tell you why. It comes from the racism, from the Jim Crow. Southern blacks, and we're in a southern state, so it's probably so here, especially downstate. Southern blacks were actually banned from eating ice cream, vanilla ice cream. They were actually banned from eating vanilla ice cream during the Jim Crow era, except on the 4th of July. The racist hierarchy in the South manifested in several ways, but most people don't know that racism even impacted what foods blacks were allowed to buy. As Maya Angelou once wrote, it was custom not to sell vanilla ice cream to blacks in many parts of the South, except on Independence Day, so-called Independence. Although it was a black enslaved man named Edmund Albius, look him up, Albius, who perfected the flavor of vanilla ice cream. Its white sweetness was viewed as a representation of the American dream, which is why blacks were kept from eating it. There's an ad. I'm going to read you. Slaves for sale. I have for sale 10 likely young Virginia and Carolina Negroes for which I will take New Orleans acceptance at 6 or 9 months. Among them is a very superior cook, a good plantation seamstress. That was dated July 4th, 1856. You ever notice, did you notice yesterday, someone saying, hey, happy 4th of July? And a lot of black people just said, and kept it moving. Which brings us to Frederick Douglass' speech on July 4th, 1852 in Rochester, New York. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham. Your boasted liberty and unholy license, your national greatness, swelling vanity. Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciation of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence. Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgiving, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy, a thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There is not a nation of savages. There's not a nation on the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of the United States at this very hour. At this very hour. Go where you may, search where you will, roam through all the monarchies and despotions of the old world. Travel through South America, search out every abuse. And when you have found the last, lay your facts by the side of the everyday practices of this nation. And you will say with me that for revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy, America reigns without rival. What to the slave is your 4th of July. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. Patrice Gibbs, your third eye optometrist. Hope you learned something, because I learned something before I got here. Make sure you share video, especially when I put it up on YouTube, so everybody can learn something. And as we always tell you, destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays. Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those as a priority who treat you as an option. This is The Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm Patrice Gibbs. Thanks for joining us. All right. Now, don't forget, it's coming. As this country faces its demise, its empire lasted 249 years. Global African supremacy.